My grandfather was a Baptist preacher, so how about in the back? Can y'all hear me? Because I'm comfortable like this. And in 10 minutes, I'm going to give an overview about constitutional law and why the idea of a corporation being able to claim constitutional rights is actually a perversion of the democratic promise of a republic in the United States of America. Y'all ready?
Praise the Lord!
Here we go. The supreme law of the land in the United States of America, the governing document, the document that gives us our charter. What is that document called? The U.S. Constitution. How many people have read the Constitution in the last year? Raise your hands. Professors, I'm watching. All right, y'all grade my papers. See if I get this more or less right. I'm going to tell you that to understand how the Constitution operates in a big picture way, it's important to recognize that there are two principal actors or concepts that are at play. The first actor is the most important actor. That's the first three words of that document.
We the people.
I do this presentation all across the country. All I have to do, y'all, is put my hand to my ears, and people in unison will say those three words. We the people. Those are hallowed words in the United States of America, and they ought to be. We the people begins that document. It's the most important concept because, see, we the people come together to create the second actor, or the second concept, which is government itself. Under the framework of the U.S. Constitution, we the people are described as being free and sovereign. And sovereign, folks, means the ability to rule, the authority to make decisions. We're taught from grade school that we are self-governing, that we are sovereign, we the people are sovereign. And a way to understand that is government is not sovereign. In fact, to the contrary, government is subordinate and accountable. Government is subordinate to whom? The people. Government is accountable to whom? I like how that's going. Let's keep going. It's got a ring to it, don't you think? We the people are free and sovereign because we have rights. Government does not have rights. Government has duties. In fact, government does not have rights against the people at all. You see, if I have the right to do something, it means I can do it, and I don't need anybody's permission. I don't need this panel's permission. I don't need the city of Montpelier's permission. I don't need the state of Vermont's permission. Look, I'm from Texas. I don't need my mama's permission. I mean, if you've got a right to do something, it means you can just damn well do it. And if government tries to interfere with my exercise of my rights, government's wrong, not me. Period. End of story. That's why, as a civil libertarian, I will tell you, I will stand strong and proud with anyone of any party, of any ideology, when government attempts to interfere with your exercise of your rights as a human being. That is a violation. Government is wrong. Government cannot do that. And when government does do it, and they do overreach from time to time if you haven't been paying attention, when government does that, it is appropriate to be able to go into court and have a lawyer overturn that law. Right? And that's very important. Our rights are sacrosanct. The Constitution doesn't create those rights. The Constitution recognizes those rights. Another way to say it is that they are inherent. They are inalienable. Some folks of some persuasion would say that those are God-given rights or natural law rights. Regardless of how you see the big cosmological perspective, at the end of the day, understand this. These are human rights. That's what it means, right? Government does not have rights. Government has duties. And another way to think about this, folks, is all power resides with the people. You know, power to the people was not just a Black Panther Party chant, although it was. It was also an American Revolutionary chant. Because, you know, I think those words have some magic. I really do. And in fact, you know, at many of the Black Panther Party meetings, they would start, whoever was facilitating the meeting would say 4 words, and then the group would say it back, and then they'd proceed. And I'm going to invite you to just, if you're so moved, to repeat them after me and just see what it feels like. I'll say, power to the people.
Power to the people.
One more time. Power to the people.
Power to the people.
How'd that feel? Right? It feels good. And the reason I do this, even in a limited amount of time, is so that we can actually have the experience. Because democracy, really participatory, horizontal democracy, is an experience. And we have to rediscover that for ourselves. We have been trained to be obedient. We have been trained to defer to power. And that is not our legacy as Americans. People fought and died for our ability to exercise that kind of power, and we need to exercise it. All power resides with the people, but we delegate a certain amount of that power to government. Well, why would we do that at all? If all power resides with the people, why would we delegate any power? Well, let me ask, what is the population of Montpelier?
8,000.
8,000? You know, I'm a political activist and a proud, engaged citizen. I love to go to political meetings. But I'll tell you what, I do not want to go to the meeting of 8,000 people where we decide where to put the stop signs. Y'all with me on this? The idea is that we, the people, although we have power, all of the power, we delegate a certain amount of power to government. Why would we do that? To perform the duties that we have said government should do. See, think of it this way. The Constitution is the codification of the social contract. How our government on the big picture is supposed to operate. And then, in a representative democracy, representatives are charged with the responsibility for discharging the duties that have been delegated to them. Another way to think about this, we the people are sovereign with individual rights. In this context, think of it this way. This is the private sphere where I have my individual rights. And that's fantastic, but it doesn't end there. There's also a public sphere, right? There's a public sphere. So my civil libertarian impulses are satisfied by this framework, but so are my communitarian impulses. You know, it's not either or. Either we have to have a complete laissez-faire system, or we have to have a completely state-managed system. No. The brilliance of the United States Constitution is that it recognizes individual civil libertarians' rights and to do so in a communitarian ethos where the big picture system of how we frame our government operates. I look at this and I think, this is brilliant. This is fantastic. This is beautiful. We should try that in this country. This would work. And I'm not even joking, because the problem, folks, is that one of the problems is when this beautiful framework is first laid out for us, the Constitution is ratified in what year? Does anybody know? 1789 is the ratification. In 1789, who got to be a person wrapping themselves in this beautiful document? You had to be a man. You had to be white.
Property.
You had to be property owner. You see, the entire history of the United States can be looked at through the lens of who is a person. Who gets to actually claim the brilliance of these protections? Who gets to actually participate? Personhood is at the core of understanding how our government operates and how our society operates. In fact, I would tell you this. If you look at all of the great movements, the abolitionist movement, the civil rights movement, the trade union movement, the women's empowerment movement, at its core, it's about driving themselves into the Constitution. Howard Zinn said, one way to understand the United States history is as a series of struggles by actual human beings to be defined as persons with rights protected by our Constitution. That's how important it is. So some people might say, all right, Cobb, relax, because everybody's a person now. And now let's reintroduce the corporation. Let's remember this, folks. It takes an act of the state legislature to create a corporation, right? The state has to actually issue that charter. That charter can be used to hold the corporation subordinate and accountable. For the first 75 years of this country, corporate charters were only allowed for 5, 7, 10 years. They could only do certain very specific things to get the privilege, not the right, but the privilege of limited liability. If you want to do business, fine, but if you want the privilege of limited liability, that entity was tightly controlled. And at the end of that time period, the corporate charter automatically dissolved. And get this, not only that, but all you could ever do was the very specific thing that you had identified. You had to prove a public need that was not being met by either existing private business or by governmental action. So the charter could be used to hold it accountable. The duties were strictly proscribed of what the corporate charter could do. And get this, anytime a corporation was ever found to act outside the public interest, do you know what happened to the corporate charter? Dissolved. The corporate death penalty. It was used routinely for the first 75 years of this country. And so, folks, can you see why I would tell you that a corporation properly understood has to be on this side of the line so that we can actually control this, the most dominant institution that has ever been created? So when the U.S. Supreme Court, in an act of supreme judicial activism, take that, right wing, this is a judicially active court who creates out of whole cloth the idea that says, oh no, a corporation needs to be considered a person with rights just like you. It perverts this whole document. Corporate personhood is not just a stupid idea, which it is. Corporate personhood is not just illogical, which it is. Corporate personhood is the linchpin for how the ruling elite, and I don't mean just the wealthy, I mean the crazy, stupid wealthy, right? The 1/10 of the 1% who actually own over half of the wealth in this country, and they are using this doctrine not only to oppress us, but to legalize it. And as a lawyer, that pisses me off. The legal system. Our legal system is supposed to be the place where we go for justice, to be administered impartially and fairly, no matter what your race, creed, gender, socioeconomic class. And so when the Supreme Court steals that from us, we should be angry. And yes, it's going to take a constitutional amendment because the court has stolen our Constitution from us. And they've done so using the 14th Amendment that said, no person shall be denied equal protection of the laws. I've got more to say, but I want to respect the time limit. I see the law professor looking at me. I know that means I have to be quiet, but I got more to say. Peace.
Thank you.